Welcome everyone to the Inspired Choices Network TV show. I am your host, Christine McIver. We have a fabulous guest with us today. We have Milica Jelenic. Milica is a holistic health practitioner. She is also the host of The Pleasure Zone on the Inspired Choices Network TV show, a radio show host. And today she's with me and we're going to be talking about the pleasure of sex. Not a topic that's easy for people to talk about, Milica, but I think that you are definitely up for the conversation.
I do like to talk about sex. It's true.
It's true. So thank you so much for coming today and being with us today. I really appreciate it. So Milica, let's start with where you're from. Like, where were you born and raised, and tell us what got you to this moment.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Toronto. Spent most of my life there.
Right.
I have ventured off to university and stuff like that, but
Right.
I always found my way back to Ontario.
Okay. So what did you do? Did you go to college? Did you?
Yeah, so I went to university in Windsor, and one of the things that I found that when I went into university was there was this wide arrangement of classes that you just never even think, oh, I can get a degree learning this, and some of them were like the history of sex and feminist studies and different things to do with bodies and sexuality and like the history of sexuality. And
so what did you go there for originally?
Well, I went there actually just to try and make my way through 1 year of university to then go become a veterinarian.
Oh, okay.
But that didn't pan out, did it? I'm not a veterinarian.
So while you were there, this started to spark some interest in bodies?
Yeah, it's actually sparked interest more in the behavior of people and the minds and how people operate with each other and relationships and how people interact. And also looking at historical information and sociological information about behaviors of people, bodies, cultures, acceptable behaviors and not acceptable behaviors throughout history. And it fascinated me, some trends that you could see where, in history there were times in certain countries where it was okay to be homosexual and they maybe didn't even have a word for it, and then all of a sudden it was not okay, and then it was okay again. Wow. And there were these interesting things that I was observing, and even at the time this was the early 90s, I went to university, and at the time people were just starting to kind of come out of the closet. I know Ellen DeGeneres kind of got kicked out of her TV show at the time for coming out of the closet. So people were coming out, but it wasn't not like it is today, right? And so there's this interesting upsweep in society where it's becoming both more acceptable in some areas, and then in other areas of the world, the persecution is getting stronger. So this polarity is really intense.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. So you started to be intrigued. Did you actually graduate with a degree in, what was the degree?
Not in that though. I graduated with a degree that had an emphasis in psychology, not technically a minor in anything like sexual studies, although all of the classes I took to get that psych degree were based on behaviors like sexual behaviors and things more specific to that. So it's more fascinating to me.
Right. So it wasn't just like you were intrigued by sex. It was you really desired to know how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And what actually created those changes and choices and so on. That's fascinating. Okay, so you've graduated from college, you have your degree, then where did you journey off to?
Well, with a BA in psych, what do you do, right? So I was a nanny for a few years, and I found it fascinating. Again, like I'm fascinated by people and behavior, and I found it fascinating to watch the development of kids discovering their bodies. Okay. And so I won't name names because but the kids that I looked after, they were curious kids and they would explore their bodies, and I was always curious to just go, oh wow, so you want to touch yourself, that's totally cool. Is that something you'd rather maybe do privately? Having a conversation with a 3-year-old about touching themselves to not make them wrong about it. Right. I was very aware of how much we make people wrong about enjoying their bodies, that even at that time I was like, how do we not judge people for this? How do we not create stigmas? How do we not, put them in a position where they might need psychological counseling when they're older, right?
Yes.
For being told how wrong they are. So,
is that something that you struggled with as a young child, like learning about your body? Was that something around you in society that was screaming at you, no, you can't touch yourself, sex, there's not really pleasure, you don't really deserve it unless you're married? Were those the stigmas that you grew up with as well?
it was, I had an interesting, when I was raised, there was this interesting polarity again. So on the one hand, from my one side of my family, there was a lot of judgment and criticism about bodies, what you wore publicly, how you were perceived in the public. If you wore such a thing, you might be perceived as a prostitute. How dare you go out looking like that? So that was one side of the family. And the other side of my family was very nonchalant about all of it. For the most part, although one of my grandmothers had a lot of rules about bodies and the pleasure with bodies. So I had such conflicting information going on that I really wondered what's true. Like, what is really true for me?
Right. And so that led you to the curiosity that kept unfolding and unfolding. Well, you know, in your radio show each week, Milica has so many different topics, which is fabulous. I mean, you've been doing radio for 4 years. Almost 5 years. Wow, I can't even keep up. And the variety of topics has been fascinating. And I often thought when you first started, I wonder how many topics she will actually have, because sometimes there's hosts that think that they only have a certain lifespan. And I really didn't. We didn't know each other that well when you first started, and I didn't know your background and how much you actually dive deep into research. And you continue to amaze me with the subjects that you come up with. So let's talk about the pleasure of sex. Let's talk about, why do we need to talk about the pleasure of sex?
That's a really great question. So there are so many ways that, and I see a lot of this now, with these apps like Tinder, and people are just choosing sex basically as a way to let off steam. There's no, and that's fine. Like, I don't have a judgment about it. It's just that we're not getting the greatest benefits out of it that we could, right? So
people are choosing sex for the release, so that their body can have an orgasm, so that they're choosing it for a physical reason.
Yeah.
But it's not very pleasurable. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Like they're missing a big piece?
Yeah, they're missing a massive piece. So there's a level where it's kind of like, for example, like if you were working out and you had a regimen that every day you have to like do this, there becomes a bit of a obligation, right? And so the obligation to orgasm, which I think is really huge right now, so people are forgetting to enjoy bodies and they're going to the obligation of orgasm. And there's a lot of people talking about, like, how do you give a better orgasm? Well, how about if you enjoy your body? Like, how about if you know your body and what your body likes? And what if we just leave orgasm off the table for now? Like, let's get familiar with bodies again. We're so used to being on social media and like not even having like human contact, right? Like, wow, human contact. It's so unusual.
It is unusual.
Right?
Yes.
And like it's even alarming maybe for people to see me touch you on an interview. Like, this doesn't happen, right?
Yes.
This is awkward.
Right. So are we awkward now?
Very awkward.
And then we're transitioning that awkward when the bodies are actually pulling us to have sex with someone. Then the bodies are awkward as well.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of presence that's going on. So, I watch and I kind of observe this, thing with people where they're talking about their sex isn't satisfying. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Are you present? Like, are you actually there?
Okay, so what does it mean
to be present?
What does that really look like?
Yeah, so let's just give an example right here.
Okay.
So, hi.
Okay. Hi.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Like, how many people look each other in the eye?
Right.
Or eyes, we have two. I just go with one.
Okay.
So let's get present and just really notice that
really be here.
You have a body. Holy smokes, like recognizing that you have a body and your body can interact with another body. But we forget that and we're just like, wow, there's this stimulation thing going on and I've got to try and feel that with another person. But that doesn't mean there's a connection, and that doesn't mean that you're actually present. you could be wafting off in your mind thinking about how many Instagram followers do I have? How many people just liked my post? How many people, oh, what am I going to have for supper tonight, right? Like, you're not there with the person in that moment, and we lack that in general. I think one of the by far sexiest things ever is presence. And when you just be with somebody and you're just like, hi, how's it going? Like, even being present with you right now, it's lovely, and like my eyes are teary, and like when we're really present with somebody, it melts your heart.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So my makeup might run. That's okay.
You're amazing. We're going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to continue to talk with Milica about the pleasure of sex and learn how we can really step into that even more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Have you thought about bringing your voice to the world? Are you looking to have a global platform that you can connect with? At Inspired Choices Network, we create an opportunity for you to bring your voice each and every week to a global platform. We support you, we train you, we bring your podcast out to more than 50 platforms. We are a network of building a community where we're bringing conscious voices to the world. If you're looking to have more of an opportunity, if you're looking to bring what you know to the world, do connect with us. You can contact us at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com, or you can send an email to becomingahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. We'll have a conversation and we'll show you what truly is possible. Welcome back, everyone. So today we are here with Milica Jelenic. We're talking about the pleasure of sex. So before we went for break, Milica, you were talking about presence.
Yeah.
What was started to come to my mind was when people have a physical desire, right? It's like I've heard people talk, it's like they're serving a master. Like, I have to get laid, I have to get laid, I have to get laid, right? And then after they have been physical with someone, and I'm purposely not using the word intimate, after they've been physical with someone, it's like they draw away, like they run away from connection. They run away from actually being present with someone. They can't actually be with someone. And a lot of people are serial sexual partners. Like they're going
one night stands.
They're a lot of one night stands because they lack the ability to be intimate.
Yes.
Right? Like when you're talking about you and I sitting here and talking and being present, this is a level of intimacy. The willingness to be present, the willingness to look each other in the eye, to listen, to respond. Right?
Absolutely.
How bad is it really out there, Milica, with the lack of intimacy?
Honestly, it's devastating, is what I feel. Like, I feel devastated that we have such a lack of intimacy with other human beings on this planet, and you can see how we treat each other. You can see how we treat the earth. You can see how we're
treating children.
Everything. Like, there's such unkindness.
Right.
And if we actually were present with somebody, how could we harm them? How could we even want to go out and harm anything that would contribute to them? We wouldn't.
So when we're being present with someone, whether it's in a intimate, physical, sexual, or it's just speaking with a friend, what changes for us and what changes for our bodies?
So when we actually get physical with somebody, and your body can calm down and be present and not feel like the alarm bells are going off, like you have to take care of certain other things that are going on, like, oh my God, I have to go pay that bill. You know,
or running away from
or
being
running away
intimate.
from just even being with that person.
Yes.
Like, how intimidating is it to look in somebody's eyes this long? Right? It can be very intimidating.
Right.
So, and this is like the challenge. I challenge people to actually look at your partner's eyes for like 3 minutes, I dare you. Because it can be so intimidating.
Right.
And I bet that people who have been married for years have actually not looked in their own partner's eyes for even a solid 3 minutes.
Right.
And if it doesn't just break your heart down and open you up doing that, then maybe stay a little longer. Stay 5 minutes.
Right.
Stay
Keep
until
challenging yourself.
Yeah, challenge yourself to be super present. And when the idea of things like bills or whatever these distractions are that come up, just notice your body again, get present again, look at that person again. You know, just be really with them And if you can maintain being present with them for a few minutes, even like 4 or 5 minutes, can you imagine what it would be like when your bodies actually touch? Like, what's that going to be like?
Right.
If your heart's already open and you're becoming vulnerable, and your body is like relaxing, so your adrenal glands are not on overdrive, you can actually have like a sense that you're not being attacked by the situation. And there's a lot of attack energy with sex now. It's like the hunter-gatherer is very prominent.
Right.
Tinder is a hunter-gatherer situation.
Right.
So when you can be present, you calm down, your body's present, your adrenals are calming down, you've got new hormones going through your body, you've got new signals going into your body that are having your body go, oh, I'm actually safe. Oh, I can have this. Oh, I can maybe feel something on a deeper level. So when your body is feeling like constantly bombarded, it doesn't feel anything other than the desire to survive.
Okay. And so what is actually occurring for us health-wise when we stay in that heightened, alert, I'm not safe space?
It's absolute chaos for the bodies. So for our bodies, for example, and I realize that I talk about it as if it's a separate thing, but I do because so many people have separated themselves from their body. And so when you start to have conversation, like, hi, I have a body, hi, oh, look at that, right? When you start to get that you have that and you're having a conversation with it, and then you start to calm down and your adrenals start to calm down, the effect can be that your body can start to heal. So when your body can be in a mode where it's no longer in survive, where it's no longer like, do I run or do I fight, or do I run or do I fight? And we do it all the time, right? Fight or flight syndrome.
Yes.
It's really high, and people have anxiety up the yin yang right now. It's like crazy.
Yes.
So when we can actually stop, be present, be aware of what's going on, and check your environment, like, is there actually any threats going on? Is that real? Like, is that a real threat? And you get, oh, it's not, cool. And then you can be present, your body can heal, your body can connect with other bodies more intimately. Now you've got the happy hormones running through your body. So having sex with a happy body is way more fun than having sex with a sad and painful and miserable body. I don't know about you, but
right.
What do you have more fun sex with a happy body or?
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, for me right now, what I'm curious about is the real pleasure piece. The real pleasure piece, and how much pleasure is it for our body when we are present? How much more pleasure can we actually invite into not only the act of sex, but take that with us as we go on about our days?
So pleasure. So how do we actually have pleasure in our lives, right?
Yes.
There's a wonderful friend of mine who actually talked about the 4 pleasures recently on my radio show, so you can check that out. But one of the things is, for me, to actually carry pleasure throughout your day is for one thing is like, you got to kind of know what's annoying you. Like, what is in the forefront that's actually stopping you from having pleasure? So, is it the laundry that's just aggravating you? And if it is, I have this very wise friend who taught me about this trick to actually approach the things that are kind of in your face that are really, I guess it would be more like struggles for you in the day. So if you're looking at it and you're like, that's a really daunting task, I don't want to deal with that. Yes. Well, that daunting task is going to be obsessive in your mind, right?
Yes.
So once you can start to deal with that, then your body can have a sense of relief, and then the pleasure starts to kick in, right?
Okay.
So I think one of the things is to look at the daunting tasks, and it's not that you have to do them fully, completely, right? It's just start to approach them, even make a list of them so that you can get a sense of how many things are daunting to you, and then
so you're
make your way
talking,
through
again, you're talking about presence.
Yes.
You're talking about don't avoid, look at what's here, look at what's bothering you, look at what you desire, and really continue to check in with our bodies. I think if someone has had a severe fight or flight situation, they will definitely be able to tap in to know what that feels like. It can be massively overwhelming. And I absolutely know that it can affect the body in big ways. So the pleasure of sex, I mean, you and I could talk about this for days, and we do. And what I really love that you do is when you're on the radio show, when you're working one-on-one with someone, I know that you are looking at the whole life of that individual. So people can connect with you, right, Milica? What is your website?
So it's www.milicajelenic.com.
Okay. And you do one-on-one coaching with individuals.
Yes.
You work with their bodies. You do a lot of different things. But you do connect and work with people who are struggling to get to that space of pleasure with their bodies and pleasure with their sex, right?
Yes, yes.
That's fabulous. I mean, and you don't have to do this in person.
No.
You can be talking with them. You do this over Zoom or over Skype. You can be working with someone and really helping them to move into that space. You know, I've heard you recently talking about children and how we have not taught these children how to begin to learn how to enjoy their bodies and to be present. And so that we're not finding a whole mass of adults out there that are really, really struggling with health, with joy, with pleasure, with sex, with all of it. I think that's fantastic. Truthfully, what you're doing in the world, Milica, is changing the world. You are inspiring people to have more pleasure in their lives, and not just in sex, but also in sex.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we'll exclude that component, you know. You go to the doctor, they don't often ask you about your sexual health or your sex life unless you're saying you have an issue with that.
Yes.
And to me, that's a massive component to the holistic approach to your life.
I completely agree with you. I've spoken with so many women over the last several years that they literally say, yeah, I'm not having sex. I'm not having sex. A lot of people, men included, are not having sex. They've cut that completely out of their life. When you hear somebody has completely cut sex out of their life, what's the first thought that comes to you?
Sometimes I feel like rescuing them, and then I go, stop. Not your job. But
Right.
I just feel like educating them, and if they're open to it, I do. There's such a part of them that I'm aware that they're cutting off. Like, why would you cut off your arm if you didn't have to? Like, is there a bonus to just chopping this off and going, I'm going to walk through the world knowingly amputating my arm for no particular reason? But we do it with our genitals. We just cut them off. We're like, nope. They're so wrong and bad, I've got to cut them off, and they don't exist anymore.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's also fascinating that you pointed to the fact that we've never been more open to these conversations, more open to people's choices on their, their sexuality and sharing what their sexuality is and their choices are, and yet we have a huge pushback that's happening as well. There's a country where they're stoning people if they actually have had anal sex, and if they admit that they're gay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I believe that things have to get really loud for people to wake up and for people to really take a step to contribute. So I appreciate so much what you do in the world and what you share on the network. You are a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Now you're gonna
having the
make me cry.
platform for it.
Yes. Well, Milica, you know what? I'm excited to see what's next with you because you're always on the creative edge, and we'll definitely get that out there for all of our listeners and our viewers too. So you definitely want to connect with Milica. She is such a gift and such an ease. Check out her radio shows. Give her a call. Who do you know that could have more joy and pleasure with their lives, with their bodies, and have some fun that would be a great gift to everyone around you. So please do check in with us next week where we'll have another inspiring guest who's inspiring the world around them. Take care.